Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Northern Nerdcast, where we showcase the geeky, nerdy people, groups, and events that happen in and around the Edmonton area. The Northern Nerdcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATV. Please feel free to head on over to albertapodcastnetwork.com for a list of amazing Alberta-made podcasts. We would also like to encourage everyone out there that if you enjoy this episode, to share it with your friends on social media. This way, we are able to help grow the community here in Edmonton and keep everyone up to date on the latest news and information regarding the geeky, nerdy people, groups, and events that happen around the city of Edmonton. Also, if you or someone you know would like to be featured on our show, please feel free to head on over to or to contact us over at northernnerdnetwork.com. Now, let's get on with the show. Okay, so like I said, I want to welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Northern Nerdcast. Today's a little bit different because I'm out of town. I'm usually out of town anyways, but now I'm in Calgary instead of Edmonton. It's a crazy mixed up world that we all live in today. And we have our wonderful, amazing, incredible, super uber talented co-host Chelsea Thompson.
Shucks. There it is. All the superlatives off the top of the show. I never get used to that.
And today on our show, we also have Randy. How do you say your last name? I don't know.
That's all right. I say it Brososky. You can say it however you want. We'll see what happens.
We'll just roll with it.
It's kind of a running joke on the show, Dan's attempt at last names. So
it's a pretty bad running joke.
So I should have waited to see what he was going to say and then corrected him in front of everybody.
You should have made him. You should have made him try it. Well, why don't you try it first?
I don't know. How do you say it?
Yeah.
Next time.
All right. We are so glad to have you on the show. We are going to talk a little bit about Necessary Evil a little bit later. But first off, we like to ask everyone on our show. Now, you're in Mexico,
yes.
So I'm sure you don't have a geek shelf with you.
Not mine, no.
No, so we're going to have to skip this, and we're just going to ask you how you're doing. How's it in Mexico?
Well, we just got here today, and we didn't have a whole lot of sleep. It was one of those stupidly early flights, so, about 3 hours of sleep, just enough time to go, oh, I'm comfortable. I'm finally in deep. That's the alarm. Okay, yep, right. I remember waking up and saying, oh, I really hope Mexico's nice, because otherwise it's not worth getting out of bed. So far, so good.
There you
go. Yeah, but we just got settled in a little while ago, and my wife is out shopping in Playa del Carmen, hopefully not getting abducted.
Always a good thing not to get abducted.
Always a good thing. This is one of the things that Mom
tips
says.
Number one, tips to go to Mexico.
House.
Don't get abducted.
Yeah, as a rule. As a rule. So, yeah, in fact, I'm going to just check on Face or iPhones, find my friend to see if my friend, who I married, is actually still somewhere
where she said she was going to be.
Where she said she was going to be, exactly. So far, so good. All right. I wish this showed me how much she was actually spending, what she was buying, but apparently privacy is a thing. So I'll find out. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Chelsea? It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I was looking at my calendar. I think the last time I was around for an episode was way back at the end of January before Sam came on to guest host about the Court of Owls episode. So yeah, it's been a bit good, busy, working away, doing a little background, having some auditions.
Yeah. So there's a reason why you've been missing a lot of the.
I took a lovely road trip. So a very dear friend of mine had been working out at Queen's University in Kingston for the last 4 or 5 years or so. She recently got a job in my neck of the woods at UBC. So I flew out to Toronto, spent a couple days visiting other good friends of mine, and then she came in and joined us in Toronto, and then the two of us drove her car back from Ontario out to BC. So I went out with her so she didn't have to do that on her own. So that was lots of fun. Yeah, that took us about a week. It was a lovely, lovely road trip.
Cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Do I assume that this group of friends are people who tend to hold swords? This is just a guess.
Well, these people specifically aren't sword friends, but they are theater nerd friends.
Okay.
They are so Joel, my good friend Joel Bazin, and his lovely girlfriend Bree Horton are the first people I stopped off at in Toronto, and then my good friend Nikki Renault. And Joel and Nikki were both cohorts of mine during my BA days at the University of Alberta.
Gotcha.
So it's either one or the other. It's either sword friend or theater friend.
Or theater friends, and the bubbles do intersect quite often. Yeah.
I was going to say, some people who do theater also hold swords.
Also
I've met a few
hold
of them.
swords, like
I've known a
myself.
couple.
Yeah.
Ditto. Yeah.
Yeah, like you. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
How
It's,
about you, Dan? How has your last little bit been? I mean, I know you've had some awesome guests that I have been sad to miss, but yeah, how's it been?
Well, things have been all right. I had to go to a funeral today. So what happened? My grandfather passed away. It's so like we're pretty much all pretty okay with this. He was 98. It was just time for him. Anyways, so what happened is I had to actually leave Fort McMurray last night. So I drove from Fort McMurray all the way to Edmonton, got into Spruce Grove or whatever. Last night at about 12-ish, somewhere around there, went to sleep, woke up really early this morning, drove down to Calgary, and did the funeral, everything else of that. Family stuff all the way up until like 2 seconds ago. And so I'm super prepared for this episode. Hopefully.
That's what you have a co-host for.
Yeah. So it should be good. I'm looking forward to tonight and learning about Necessary Evil and a little bit more about Randy here. And it's going to be a great time. So we're going to quickly take a quick 5-minute break, and we will come right back and we will talk a bit about Necessary Evil right after this.
Give the good people what they want, Daniel. Give them an ad.
Yes. So this episode of the Nerdcast is brought to you by Let's Do Coffee. I have some notes on Let's Do Coffee, but of course they're never right where I need them to be. And so Let's Do Coffee is an affiliated podcast with the Alberta Podcast Network. And if you guys go on over to the actual Alberta Podcast Network website, albertapodcastnetwork.com, you will find all our affiliated podcasts there. And I have. So if you guys go to also letsdocoffee.libsyn.com, you will find the actual podcast there as well. And Let's Do Coffee is is done by the Maji Center for New Venture and Student Entrepreneur at NATE. Every entrepreneur has a story to tell and lessons learned and wisdom earned. In Edmonton, many of the most successful entrepreneurs are very willing to share their stories and expertise, but they really don't have the time to have coffee with everybody. So the Maji Center, led by Max Frank, is tapping into that wealth of knowledge on behalf of with his new podcast. So this is a bi-weekly show, interviews with students, entrepreneurs, and alumni from the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, and you can get a sense of what the podcast will be like by going to. Well, you can just you guys can go and check that out on their website. So go check out Let's Do Coffee, the podcast. Once again, by going to their website, letsdocoffee.com. And that's it. All right. Now we have today with us, we have Randy. I'm not going to bother saying it.
No, go for it. Say my last name. I dare you. Do it.
I don't even know.
I got this one because I have known this fine gentleman for several years. Mr. Brososky, welcome to the show.
Thank you ever so much, Ms. Thompson.
You're very welcome. Yeah, so much for coming on our show today. Yeah. We're gonna have some fun talking about this show, this little show that you've got going on that is growing some legs and taking off, which is kind of
this little
exciting.
show that could and
Yeah,
did
the little
and
show
has
that could
and hopefully can keep on keeping on.
That's right.
So right off the hop, tell the good people what is the show that you have created, sir? What's it called? What's it about? Give us the elevator pitch.
All right. Necessary is the story of a low-level demon working in literal corporate hell who gets called to the top office to find out that Lucifer has resigned and promoted him to CEO in his place. So now he's got all sorts of challenges. He's got to figure out a job that he is woefully unqualified for, being deeply wrong with the corporation that it's now his problem to solve. There's a whole bunch of other demons that didn't even know he existed until just now, that now want the job, preferably over his dead body. And of course, he's got his own personal demons to struggle with.
Ooh.
I think that's pretty much like every corporate job out there, right? Like that's
It kind of
comes to everything out there.
Yeah,
So-
there may or may not have been some personal experience that was drawn on in order to create the reality and elements and themes of the show. That's all I'm going to say about that.
So, as our regular listeners and viewers know, I'm always a sucker for the origin story. So where did the kernel of the idea, where did it, what shower thought propagated, the show? Where did it come from?
This is on YouTube. I can't share my shower thoughts. This actually has quite the pedigree, makes it sound more ambitious than it is. Quite the history. In that many years ago, 1998, some comedy partners and I did a little touring fringe show called God, an Unauthorized Biography, where we basically had two angels that went to God and said, no one believes you anymore, so we're going to do a fringe show, and that's how we'll convert the world. And God says, sure, but I get to write, I get to direct, and I get to run the show, and he screws with them until they say, no, screw you, God, we're doing it on our own. And then they start seeing success and rewards. And that metaphor was basically the idea that humanity is God's children, and you, at some point, want your child to be mature enough to say no to you. It's got to be at the right point and not just out of principle, but there comes a point where your child has to outgrow you. So it had a bit of a message, but it was just a comedic show with puppets and trees and angels having sex in the back of a van and all sorts of things. And so ever since then, I've been saying, I want to do the other side of the story. I want to see how we can take, because basically we're taking Western theology and just sort of flipping it on its head and saying, yeah, this is what we hear and this is what we're told is behind everything, but what if? And that sort of but what if has always driven me and is always what I find most fascinating about stories. So that seed got planted, and like I said, that seed got planted in about 1998. Speed ahead a number of years. We're trying to produce a feature. A friend has written a feature, and we've got a little group of producers who are trying to put this together. We figure out in order to make this feature and get some funding, we need to put a star in it. And the best role for the star was the one that was written for me. So here I am producing a feature, and I can't even have the lead role in my own feature. Okay, I got to do something to boost my profile so that never happens again. Well, what can I do? Well, I can do web series. Web series, in theory, younger me. I'd like to look back at me 4 years ago and say, yeah, you think this is true, but web series are theoretically cheaper to produce, easier to do, less ambitious, and you can just start building your profile that way. So I start chewing on it and say, okay, how can I create a setting that's a location that should be easy to find and easy to shoot in and kind of cool and kind of funky and can be a vehicle for myself. And then that seed that had been growing since 1998 said, well, what about this idea? And I went, ooh. And so I started writing and wrote 15 webisodes and then found out about the Tell a Story Hive program. They gave me some money and I went, okay, I'm going to make the pilot. And then a year later, they gave me some more money, and I did a digital spin-off called Recruiting Hell. Mm-hmm. And then I had quieter section where I just made my own project out of my pocket called the Elevator Project, which is another story in and of itself, which we can get to. And then about a year and a half ago, TELUS said, okay, well, through Story Hive, their 100K version, they said, so you want to do this web series? Okay, well, here's money to do the first 6 episodes. Go make us a web series. And that's what got us produced into sort of where we are today, in a nutshell.
So, talk to us a bit about, I mean, you have a love of theater and acting and are a creative type of person with a big background in the Edmonton theater and creative community. Talk to me a bit about what the process of like bringing the show to life was, of getting, to mine the Edmonton theater community that you have been such a big part of for your cast and your crew. What was that process like? Was it kind of like, getting to be a kid in a candy store of like, I know this great person and I know that great person and let's call this person and let's call that person?
There was a certain amount of that, yes. And in fact, as I was writing it, it was a mix, because I've always had any project I've done in any time over the years, I've always wanted to do a mix of about 1/3 people I work with all the time, that I have a language with, that we have a shorthand with, that we really connect with and can facilitate.
Helps ease the way when production gets rolling. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then a second third of cast or crew or whatnot that I've worked with a couple times, but haven't worked with nearly enough, and want to work with more. And then there's always a third of people I've never worked with before. Always new blood. So you've got that mix of the sort of established routine, but you've always got a significant fresh chunk to keep the ideas fresh and the approach fresh, and not get too caught up in your own laurels or your own patterns or whatnot. So as I was writing, a few of the roles I had people in mind for. For instance, I've known Mark Muir of Commander Shepard fame for longer than this project has been percolating. And I thought, oh, he's perfect for Mephistopheles. And not only would he do it well, but this is a role that he could request. Like he'd say, "Can I do that, please? Please, can I do that?" So I was able to call him and get him involved in it. Another person I was able to choose from, who's no longer in Edmonton, but I met in Edmonton way back in the old halcyon days of our youth. Trevor Duvall, who, if you don't know who he is, you'd be like, I've never heard of that name. Then you look him up on IMDb and you go, sweet mother of pearl, he's done all that. Trevor left Edmonton a number of years ago to Vancouver to try and learn this film thing and get some skills and bring it back. And as he says, fell ass backwards into doing voiceover. And since it has had many successes, has now moved to LA. He's been in LA for about 2.5 years, I think. He does Rocket Raccoon and Marvel's animated Guardians of the Galaxy. He's in F is for Family. Just look him up and see the stupid number of credits that he's got. He's now writing for Marvel, so I'm not jealous of him at all. Anyway, one of the roles I knew would be perfect for Trevor, and we in fact did some spoof commercials. Not spoof commercials. Our sponsor, we had a sponsor for the project, and he owns 3 stores in Bonnie Doon Mall, and he said, we're going to do in-universe commercials for your stores. And I got Trevor and Mark to be in costume and character and just improvise, and they are some of the funniest things I've ever seen, because I just gave them a leash and let them run. Beyond that, I had the opportunity to open up the casting and say, okay, now who wants to come play? We're non-union, so that limits things a bit, but there are a lot of amazingly talented people in the Edmonton area who've decided not to jump up to union, because of course once you do, there's a whole lot of work in Edmonton that's going on right now that's very creative that you can't do anymore. So I put out the call, and we got a whole mix of people that I had wanted to work, that I knew of and wanted to work with for a long time, like Erica Conway, who plays Nyx, who is just amazing at Nyx and is an absolute chameleon, and brand new talent, including Kimberly Philpott, who plays Persephone, who had never acted before and came in cold for the audition, wowed us. We brought her to the callback, wowed us again, so we cast her, and we've been working with her ever since. And she has been trying to develop her career, and now her resume is getting dangerously close to being longer than mine after only 4 short years. I'm like, hey, glad we could help you out for your career, because that's the whole point of this project, was your career, not mine. No, I'm kidding. And yeah, so it was a bit of a kid in a candy store, and being able to work with people, not just in the theater community, but in the film community that I've had the luxury of working with as just an actor in the past, and getting them to, not getting them to, but seeing them commit to my idea, baby. Seeing them say, yeah, this is cool. We want to see this happen. We want to make this happen. I mean, it's a limited budget, so you've got to kind of cash in on the favor economy for something like this. And we were able to do that because people had faith in the show. So, yeah, kid in a candy store is actually a really good way to describe it, because it, as far as working with the different people involved in the show, it's absolutely been that.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear, because I mean, like, when you hear about other communities, one thing that always stands out about Edmonton is that kind of a culture where people are like, I have this great thing that I'm working on. I'd love for you to come up, be a part of this, and people come out in droves, right?
They do.
What has it been like for yourself, you know, in your career, growing up in Edmonton here, and seeing that kind of a culture in Edmonton?
It's really fascinating, and Edmonton has changed a lot in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years, and it goes out well beyond just theater and film and upstream creatives like that. We have another life, because strangely, film doesn't make us rich. I can't come to Mexico on Necessary Evil. No, Necessary Evil has cost me several Mexico trips, so to this point. But in our other life, we do communications and social media consulting and foundational strategies and that sort of thing for some very interesting clients around the city. And we've had the chance to work for the Edmonton Economic Development Corporation and the City of Edmonton. And in doing so, we found out that whole attitude of, you're doing something interesting, I'd like to come be a part of it and help you do it, is kind of in the city's DNA. It's not just in the arts community's DNA. The startup community in Edmonton, the food scene in Edmonton, the restaurant community in Edmonton.
The nerd community in Edmonton, as we can attest to.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so it's been really transformational. I mean, you get to a point where you're like, okay, why are you still in Edmonton? They ask you, whoever they are. And although in the past I can say it was fear, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend I was like, oh, I had such big things going on being an actor in Edmonton. I clearly, look at my resume. Now I don't say it's fear. I say it's because of those networks and those connections and that willingness to chase a new idea that often will fill in the gaps where political will, say the provincial government or the federal government or whatnot, is just not quite closing the gap to say, okay, you want to be creative, you want to, and it's, I'm going to say something here that hopefully isn't a dirty phrase, but I think we need to go beyond being creative as a descriptor for what we do, because creativity is a part of it. If you aren't creative, if you don't have art, you can't execute what you're doing well. But what we're doing in all these fronts is business. We're enriching our communities. We're boosting the economy. We're creating a spin-off and profile for the city. And I mean, and these threads run all over the place. Like if you have a new tech startup and you want to bring people to Edmonton, they're going to say, Edmonton, Frozen North, why would we go there? And then you find out we've got this food scene, we've got this theater scene, we've got all these festivals, we've got all these different reasons to live in a supportive, friendly community. I mean, some people, I agree, call Edmonton the largest small town you'll ever find, because you're always like 1 or 2 steps away from anybody. Like, you can literally, it doesn't just feel like this, you can do this. If you needed to speak to the mayor, you could call the mayor's office and probably set up a meeting. Doesn't matter who you are. You don't find that in a lot of cities unless you have that sort of, oh, the party has started over here. I hope it's not too loud in your microphone. but yeah, you don't find that sort of integrated community just anywhere you go. I mean, it's certainly not in a lot of American cities. There's a few. Austin, Seattle have got a bit of that. There's pockets in Toronto and Vancouver that are like that, but it's not the dominant trait of the city.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I mean, don't get me wrong, those pockets. I had the luxury of being at the Blood and the Snow Festival in the fall with Necessary Evil, and meeting the horror community in Toronto was kind of like coming home, because they're so supportive of each other, and they cross pollinate, and they work together, and they encourage each other, and they've got that structure. So anytime you can find that, it's great. And in Edmonton, like I say, that's in the DNA of the city. So it's far more dominant in Edmonton than it is in any other place I've visited. So is that a short answer? How's that? Is that a tiny?
No,
brief?
we love the long answer. We love the good, like, meaty, juicy stuff here.
Cool. And I love the sound of my own voice. So this is a working relationship.
This is perfect then.
Something, serious journalism, something.
Something,
That's what we
yes.
do here, right, Dan? Serious journalism?
Serious journalism. At this utmost serious then.
Okay, I want to talk a bit about the expansion of the universe through smaller spin-off projects like Recruiting Hell and The Hellevator, and how big you see your universe getting. What if anything, what information, what bones can you toss about what might be coming next?
Bones. Can I toss about what might be coming next? Well, the thing is, the way I've written the web series is it's a very thin through line of the story, right? It's just as a story, as is in every scene. But I don't like doing things simply, which might be my own downfall. But in fact, the event that I heard about Necessary Evil was at, what was it called at that time? It's evolved a few times since then. It was called Story Worlds. And it's something that Ampia put on to talk about just how to create worlds in your story building and universe building and that sort of thing. And I had been picking away at this for a while, and then I went to Story Worlds, and I realized, this instinct I have to try and figure out why something happens, and how deep something goes, and how far something goes, and how much farther you can make it go, is actually the difference between successful series and flash in the pans. So, I mean, they said, I think the thing was, anytime you have a setting, you should work 2 levels up. So if your setting is a convenience store, you need to, as a writer, or as a creator, know that convenience store. You need to know the town that it's in, and you need to know the province or the state that it's in. Whereas if your location is a city, then you need to know the province and the country, et cetera, et cetera. And I was thinking about this, and I'm like, my universe goes 6 levels. That's more than 2. Ooh. So there are tremendous amounts of stories to tell. Bones that I can throw out now. Well, we know if you watch the show, and this isn't a spoiler, you'll find out that Persephone only works in hell half time. Those mythology buffs will know this is coming already.
I was just going to say, I think that's one of my favorite things about the writing, is that you broadened your scape of the denizens of hell from out of traditional, like, Christian demonology into sort of any sort of denizen and across any sort of mythology or religion that has an underworld or a hell of some sort. I really appreciated that broadening of the spectrum of characters.
Awesome, thank you. And that was an important thing, because I wanted to. If we're going to talk about the meaning of the world and there's a reason it's called Necessary Evil, because I have a theology, if you will, or a theological construct of why evil is necessary. Anyone who's...
There's no bad. We can't appreciate the good.
No, it's better than that.
Oh.
It's bigger than that. It's deeper than that. It's more nuanced than that. And it's more screwed up than that.
Which is awesome.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, that was from the seed back 1998. The title, Necessary Evil. Why is it called Necessary Evil? Because evil is necessary. But why? That's coming. I'm not going to get into that now, but that's coming.
Say it one more time, Fred. Hook them, Randy. Hook them. You have the platform. It's coming. Say it one more time.
It's coming. Hopefully, as soon as we get money and people buying into it and people liking us on the Book of Face.
That's right. So
and people watching the
find
videos.
this.
Yeah, and don't worry, loyal listeners and viewers. We will make sure that before the show ends, you have all the wonderful details of where you can go and check out Group of Rogues and Necessary Evil and Recruiting Hell and Helvator. We will have all of that lovely information for you, so you can rush out after this episode and binge watch everything.
Binge it all.
In fact, you don't have to rush out. You can do it on whatever device you're watching this on. It's all in the same place.
It's on the same place.
The world is in your pocket.
Put on your comfiest pair of elastic waistband pants, plunk down on the couch with a lovely drink.
Yep.
And watch some stuff.
Watch
Good
stuff.
Some
interesting foundational theology sort of work. So anyway, as far as extended universe, I mean, we've got to see what heaven is like, and how does heaven work? The reason I've got all these different mythologies in is because if we're trying to explore the universe, then we've got to say, okay, what about the Greeks? What about the Norse? What about the Romans? What about Indian mythology or Chinese mythology or Japanese mythology or African mythology? I mean, these are all stories that have been told on this planet, and if heaven and hell are connected
universal
to this planet,
across,
they've got it. There's got to be a place for all of these things.
There's got to be, yeah. That is incredible. Like, what was it like for yourself just trying to sort of build this up in your head? Like, is there a big process that you go through to come up with this? Or is there already something that's been foundational from the very beginning?
Yeah, easy question. Just break down. Yeah. How do you write, Randy? Break that.
How do you create universes? Well, let's see. I start with some silly putty. Well, no, I mean, this is where it comes into a combination of, this is where we get to go back to the shower thoughts, because I actually come up with some of my deepest philosophical, what if? And that means, and if that's the case, then that's, I gotta get out of the shower, write this down. And then not only that, I also had a lot of help bouncing these ideas around with two people in particular, my wife, Marlos Weber, who has been involved in storytelling. She started life as an actor, and she is a writer, and she has produced videos and stuff. Like she gets story. And another friend of mine, Mark Canterborg, who is also a playwright and screenwriter. Sorry, screenwriter. He's not a playwright. I don't know if he's ever written a play. Haven't asked him. Mark, you'll have to tell me. Anyway, but those conversations about story and how things tie together to create logic and meaning and purpose and resonance. I mean, it's also sort of what I do for a living, right? If I'm working with a company, I'm like, what's your story and why should anyone care? Like really, what are you really doing this for? And who should give a rat's ass about you doing it? And who shouldn't? And why do they care? I mean, no one cares about a esthetician because my nails are rough, I need to get them better. That's not why you choose who you go to. That's not the experience that you have there. The manicure is just how they deliver it. But what is your story? What are your values? What do you care about? And why should anyone else care about them? And who does and who doesn't? So know your audience. It all ties together, and everything is storytelling. Everything. So that's whole fascination with how to take these pieces with a theme and then build on that theme to create a world. Like I said, it's something I've been doing either consciously or unconsciously for decades, and I'm like, okay, so that's how this all works. Like, for instance, Necessary Evil has a theme, and there's no problem saying this now. If you don't pick it out of the first 6 episodes, then knowing this will help. It's the choice between doing what is easy and what is right, because far too often in our lives, the choice between doing what is easy and what is right are diametrically opposed. And so, what do you do when that happens? And what are the consequences when that happens? Because that's what story is about. Story is about situation, choice, consequence. And every character, both the ones that we see and the ones that we don't, in Necessary Evil, at some level, touch on or connect deeply to that theme. Is this the right thing? Is this the easy thing? And especially when these are in direct conflict. What do I choose? What does that say about me? What does that mean? And what is that going to lead to? So I like story. I'm a story purist. There are many other ways to tell a story. I don't find them as satisfying. I find this kind of story deeply fulfilling.
So that was something I wanted to ask, sort of as a sidebar. I mean, you talk a bit about what you do in the other parts of your life with your business. You're consulting through Group of Rogues. Was it then sort of a necessary extension that, and I hope I'm remembering this correctly, that the show was produced under the banner of Group of Rogues? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So was that sort of a no-brainer for you once the train got rolling? You were like, well, of course, obviously, this is an extension of what I do everywhere else.
Yeah, and actually, it's more of an evolution too. I mean, there was a while back. My wife has a company. I have a company. The reason for separating them is getting thinner and thinner all the time because we always work on each other's projects, right? She was doing social media communications and management. I was doing foundational strategy. But anytime I got a strategy, she would help with it, and every time she got a social media contract, I would help with it. And it's like, okay, so clearly what we're doing there is communications. So how do we bring in more of this? How do we create the business and financial structure to be able to take this filmmaking thing seriously? Because we have to take it seriously or we can't keep doing it, right? That's the harsh reality of
pretty much anything you do.
Exactly, yeah. So Group of Rogues is evolving into a film production company, and Parados Communications, which is my wife's company, is evolving into a communications strategy and execution company. And it's just making sense because, again, like I said, my approach was always it's all about story. So it makes sense to be telling stories. And yeah, that's why I call it an evolution, because this is where Group of Rogues has to evolve to, and really Parados has to evolve in much the same way.
Yeah. All right, so where can people find pretty much everything you do in Necessary Evil, everything?
NecessaryEvilSeries.com is kind of our static web homeland. But we tend to be more active, unless I'm in Mexico. Sorry, everybody. We tend to be more active on Facebook and Instagram. So on Facebook, it's facebook.com/NecessaryEvilWebSeries. Get the web in there. You're going to find something about a mafia enforcer that hasn't been shot in 6 years. I mean, kudos to them, but really, I care more about mine, I guess. And on Instagram, Necessary Evil Series. Yeah, Instagram.com/Necessary Evil Series. You can find it there. That's also the home of the Elevator Project. Should we talk about the crazy, insane thing we did to ourselves? It's the Elevator Project?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in this world of story, what's interesting about story, especially when you've got a vast array of characters, especially characters you haven't even written yet, but you know they're there, is forcing them into situations with each other. Right? That's a story tactic. It's an improv tactic, and good improv is at the heart of good story.
Mm-hmm.
They share all the same things. Pro tip: if you want to be a writer, take a couple improv courses. If you want to be an improviser, take some writing courses. They're not the same, but they feed each other. I wanted to find ways to get all these different characters together. And I realized that in an elevator, the CEO... Yeah, can you hear those screams?
Yes, yes, we can.
These people are so excited about my project. See, they're listening to me. Yeah, it's clearly a street performer. He's milking every scream he can get. Which I say mockingly because I, too, have done street performing, so I'm mocking myself. At any rate, I thought an elevator is the perfect thing to have in a corporation because anyone can meet each other. Any one character can meet any one other character for an awkward minute in a terrible ride in an inescapable box. Anything can happen. You can have the CEO and the janitor meet each other and have a conversation. So... And I wanted to see how else we could extend this into other worlds and other universes. Or not other worlds and other universes, but in other media and other channels to reach people. And Instagram at that time was 15-second videos. And I was like, can I do it? And I tried to write the fastest, cute little script I could, and it was 18 seconds long. I'm like, okay, this is not going to happen. And then it was as I was thinking of this that the news went by. Instagram has extended its video length to 1 minute. I was like, I could write lots that's a minute long. And Edmonton was, again, that whole community spirit thing that goes on in Edmonton. There was an event, there's a global event called the 101 Day that is all about trying to get 100 or more place-making things happening in your city. They can be anything. They can be, some people did a neighborhood invitational fence painting in their back alley, and then some people did tea parties and parking spots, and some people did art projects and whatnot, all sorts of things. And I thought, oh, this would be a great idea. Let's be a 101 Day event. And my original thought, if you're familiar with the Old Spice guy, yes, just after his first commercial came out, here I'm going to switch gears into my marketing guy. The agency behind it, Wyden and Kennedy, said, okay, this is really popular. How can we have fun with this? And they said, I know how. They got the Old Spice guy, you can't remember his name, but they got a set and a bunch of props, and they put him in a room, and they got a whole team of writers, and they got a whole social media team, and they said, okay, ask him anything. And a tweet would come in, they would write a quick 30-second script, film it, and tweet it back out. And they did this for an entire 12-hour day or 16-hour day. It was insane. It was incredible. It was really ambitious and really awesome. I said, that's what we want to do. I want to have a team of writers and some props, and we're going to write stuff and film it in the elevator and just cycle through. And then my wife looks at me, and she says words I will never forget, and they haunt me to this day. She said, you do realize the event is called 101 Day, right? And I said, don't you even finish that sentence. She said, do 100 of them. Do 100 videos. It's like, oh, you said it. Now I have to
Now
do
I have
it.
It has to be done.
So needless to say, the writing room churning them out thing was just not going to be fast enough. So we recruited a bunch of writers and put together some stories and had an incredible 4-hour day taking all the stories that worked and trying to sort them in an order that would make sense but not have any actor in the same scene twice. Or not actor back-to-back, so they always had a chance to go and refresh for their next scene. And then on that day, we got on set at 6:30 in the morning. We worked it out. We had about 5 minutes to shoot each scene. So that's like, get the actors on set, like from the green room over here to the elevator, get them on, run it, give them notes, run it again. You know, some of the scenes, like I said, the shortest one was 18 seconds. We could do that 3 or 4 times. Some of the scenes were a full minute. You had 2 or 3 takes, tops. That's it. And like I said, we got on set at 6:30 in the morning, and we posted the final video at 12:18 that night. And so if you go to Instagram.com/necessaryevilseries and scroll way back to the beginning, you can see all 100 videos we shot in that elevator. And what's great is that, like, there's sort of a through line, but we knew people would be seeing them individually, so they had to stand alone. But the 2 neat things that came out of that, there were some people who were able to create running jokes that even if you didn't see the first one were still funny, but if you did see the first one, it was doubly funny. Yeah, exactly. And what else is really cool, only half the characters had been established in the Necessary Evil universe so far. The other half we just created for this. And we had 8 writers? Myself and Marlis and 6 others? Or 8 others, can't remember. And character relationships, these guys weren't talking to each other, the writers weren't talking to each other, but character relationships started to form between these characters that were common through all the writers. These threads started appearing with this group of characters and completely disconnected writers. And so when we started assembling it all, it was just like, are we sure this was written by different people? This is awesome. They just stitched together like butter, like silk, like origami, like some other metaphor that you can come up with that's better than what I just did. So, yeah, Elevator was a hell of a lot of fun and a heck of a lot of work. But it was Never experienced anything like that before.
That's incredible. And it probably gives a really good chance for the actors to really get into that character and try to really see how it feels on them.
Yeah. There was a few of the actors that I think grew a lot over that day into their characters.
That's incredible. All right. We are going to take a quick little break here. I want to thank you so much, Randy, for coming on the show tonight.
Absolutely.
We are going to do a quick little break, and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about some of the events that are happening in and around the city of Edmonton. So this episode of the Northern Nerdcast is brought to you by the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. And if you guys head on over to albertapodcastnetwork.com, you guys will find a list of amazing Alberta-made podcasts. And one of the podcasts I would like to, kind of like showcase is I have some notes. I have some notes. It's done by Greg Beaver, Colin McIntyre, and Scott Z. Bourgeois. And it's a way to punch up some mediocre Hollywood movies, one podcast at a time. And right, like just recently, they just did an episode on Barbarella. I haven't watched Barbarella for, I don't know, I was like a teenager when I watched that one. And I actually had to go back and go, what was Barbarella? I had to go watch a couple of the
YouTube clips.
The YouTube clips, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the sets that they had for that one was something else. I can tell you that. So go check that out. They have that episode up now for you guys to listen to, and that's all done by the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATV. And yes, that's all. All right, now we have events. I know I'm so smooth at like
transitions are totally Dan's thing.
I could not tell where the commercial started, where it stops. It
exactly.
It's like butter, like silk, like origami.
Yes.
Or something better, or that we can come up with later.
Tell the good people where they need to go to be nerdy and geeky with one another, Daniel.
Well, I'd like to mention that Theater Sports is happening by Rapid Fire Theater. And Theater Sports is awesome to go check out. So this is happening pretty much on all the Fridays. March 15th, they have 2 times at 9:30 and 11:45. Sorry. What am I doing here?
I don't know.
March 22nd and the 29th as well, to go check out Theater Sports, happening by Rapid Fire Theater at the Citadel Theater. Tickets are on Eventbrite, and they are $12 to $14 for a ticket. Moving along, we also have Canucks Cantina, an improvised Star Wars saga, and this is also happening. This is happening on Tuesdays on March 19th, April 2nd, April 16th at 9 o'clock. And this is happening at... Oh, I lost where it was. I will have the links down in the description below.
If you're looking for location, I believe the Star Wars Canteen is at Grindstone.
Okay, yes, that's right. I don't know why I lost that.
Thanks, Randy. Nice save.
Yes. Yeah.
Here for you.
We also have Press A to Start, and this is happening at the McEwen Game Development Club. We'd like to welcome you to the 3rd annual Press A to Start, now a full-day conference. Press A to Start 2019 features a full set of panels on the nuts and bolts of game development, from the game design, VR, storytelling, and marketing. This is happening once again on April 20th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So go and check that out. And this is happening at... Oh my goodness. Why don't I have my... Did I not put any of the...
locations on your notes tonight?
I think it's happening right at the Grant McEwen If not, once again, I'll have all the links down below.
I can't save you on that one. I just feel bad now, so I can't. You're on your
It is what it is. Like I said, I got like 2 minutes to prepare for this episode, so I apologize for all the folks out there listening to this. Finally, we have the Calgary Expo, which is happening on April 25th to 28th, happening at the Calgary Stampede Park. I do know where that one is.
There you go.
It's going to be 4 days of awesome cosplay and celebrity guests. They have the stars from the Goonies coming along. There's Michael J. Fox and some of the cast from Back to the Future. I mean, it's going to be a great time at the Calgary Expo. It always is. So go check that out. That's going to happen at Calgary Stampede Park. That is it for this episode. I want to thank Randy once again so much for joining us on this episode. Once again, where can people find Elevator,
Necessary Evil, Recruiting Hell, Group of Rogues? Where can people find you, Randy?
Stuff. Okay.
All the stuff.
Group of Rogues. We're at groupofrogues.com. That one's easy. Necessary Evil is all at necessaryevilseries.com. We'll link to everything, including Facebook, Instagram. Elevator is on there. Recruiting Hell is on there. The original take of the pilot that we shot is on there. You don't have to watch that one. And yeah, although they're not on there yet, the commercials will be on there at some point. But if you dig through the Facebook page, you'll see those spoof commercials with Mephistopheles and Hades and the Prime Material plane.
And not if, but when our listeners and viewers get hooked, that's the place that they can check out for upcoming news and all of the amazing information about all the awesome festivals that you're screening at now, etc., etc.
Yep.
Amazing.
Facebook is the best way to do that because that's where we're active. And then the website, we go, oh, right, we should probably update that. Damn. But yeah, Facebook's the best place to go. And yeah, we've been lucky with festivals because we're in... Just this last week or so, we got confirmation for Houston, Germany, and Sicily.
Woohoo! Congratulations!
Too bad we can't actually go because no one has the money. If any of your listeners are looking to donate to a good cause,
you're going to start a Kickstarter or Indiegogo? Send Randy to Sicily.
Yes, if you pay enough money, he won't come back.
That's awesome. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And that is it for this edition of the Nerdcast. I want to thank everyone out there who listens to the show and asking everyone if you can share it with your friends on social media. The Northern Nerdcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB, and is produced by myself, along with Chelsea Thompson and Trina Schessel. You can find more information on the Northern Nerd Network by checking us out on our Twitter at Northern_Nerd, on Facebook.com/Northern Nerd, on YouTube.com/Northern Nerd Network, or on our very own website, NorthernNerdNetwork.com. That's all the time we have, and I want to thank everyone for listening to this edition. And I'll see you guys on next one.
Bye.
Ciao. Thank you so much for having me.